Krackin Up, the Carpies Podcast, where we talk everything Carpies. Here's your host, Derreck Carpoletti.
What's going on, everybody? Derreck here for the Krackin Up Podcast. Today we have sorta big guest. We have Andy Brooks from SortaFast Industries. Andy, what's been going on?
Man, nothing much. I'm just living the dream. How about you?
Like I said before, sometimes it's more of a nightmare than a dream.
Hey, it's still a dream.
I'm just like sweaty and terrified.
Yeah, I feel that. But
So, give us a little insight about yourself and SortaFast. I know a good deal of our listeners are in the RC industry.
Yeah, for sure.
Not necessarily all in pan, car, and on-road, but just give us a little insight on what you're all about.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, my name's Andy Brooks. I'm a diehard RC racer at heart, so that's first and foremost. I am an on-road guy, but I have learned that I'll race anything. So, as you know, I'm a casual oval racer. I also started dabbling in off-road. So basically, if I can drive it with a controller, I'm into it. So,
How long have you been racing?
So I came back in 2018. So when I was younger, I raced a lot. I think I got my first car when I was like 13 or so. It was a Track to Stampede. And around here, we had an indoor oval and then an outdoor off-road track that still actually exists. And the guys that ran that at the time were really good about being really inclusive. So I remember I had my Stampede, and when it was wintertime, we would race in indoor oval, like on a polished concrete surface. And we ran in like what was called like a whatever class. It was pretty cool. I actually like zip tied the battery into the chassis, and we would zip tie the shocks down so it would be real low. And I would just race that because I just wanted to race. I was a kid and that was the car I had. And then, come weekdays, we'd cut the zip ties off and we'd go play around at the campgrounds or, at home, or trying to jump the biggest jump I could jump or whatever, that type of thing. So, I did that for a little while, and then I actually ended up working at a hobby shop. I worked for a hobby town through high school, and then for a couple of years after high school until, like real jobs and stuff like that kind of took over. So during that time, I raced a little bit, but then, life kind of happens, and, you find things like real cars and girls and jobs and stuff like that. So I took a big hiatus, probably from like 2001, 2002 till 2018 when I got back into it. So. Wow.
And then the whole industry was different by the time you came back.
Oh, everything's different. It's all brushless and lipos and all that stuff. So what was funny, when I came back to it, I actually started crawling first. And then I was really into building that side of it. So being younger, and then even growing up into my like adult years, I built model cars. And then I found scale like crawlers and stuff. So that was cool because like I could build scale vehicles that like actually worked, stuff like that. So yeah, I never really left RC, but I left racing. When I was younger, I raced whatever I could race. I even joke because some of the guys that I race with now at NORCAR were probably guys that I bought their used stuff so I could race when I was younger. And I did it until like I was fast enough that not being able to afford to keep up was a thing. And then, you probably got frustrated. And like I said, life happened, and girls probably mostly was what it was, but, or at least that's what I'm saying. It was probably like real life jobs and stuff like that. But, saying it was girls sounds cooler, right?
Yeah, it does. So then as you got back into it, obviously you got into the SortaFast business.
Yeah.
How'd that get started?
So it's kind of funny. So, SortaFast originally was a clothing brand. So I had this wild idea, and I've always been kind of creative, and I like to teach myself things. So a while ago, I'd actually taught myself how to use Illustrator because I bought a vinyl cutter. I have like a 36-inch vinyl cutter over there that I haven't used in years. But when I was crawling, I would like make paint masks and stuff like that too. So like, and I would sell them, and that's how I paid for it. Like I bought it and then did enough of it till like, hey, cool, I paid it off, and then did something else. And then, one day I was like, man, I wonder, what else I could do, just something to pass the time. Or me and my wife had like opposite schedules at the time. I was working in like a professional career. So the idea for SortaFast came up mostly because like the SortaFast was already kind of a thing. I had made stickers for me and my bunch of my buddies. It was kind of based off real cars.
Yeah.
And it originally started as a clothing brand. I made a Facebook page and was doing a lot of direct print stuff. And I'm sure you're very aware that a clothing brand is not a very easy thing to do. I was really doing it for fun. I made a couple bucks here and there. I made some cool clothes that me and my buddies wore. I'm sure most of my customers were my friends and my family, that kind of thing.
Yep. I know that pain because that's actually how I got into what I'm doing now. I started a clothing company-ish thing. So it was probably like the first year I was in college. I started doing that, and I would sell them out of the dorm rooms. That seemed like it was going well because everyone's your friend, and they're stuck there. They have to buy it. But after leaving there, nobody cared. So then I learned it was much more profitable just to print other people's stuff than try to convince people that you're cool and to buy your own stuff.
And the thing is, I don't think the clothing thing was ever really I planned to get rich off of it. It was just something to do and maybe like teach myself how to do some things. Like that's just kind of how I roll. I like to do that. And then somewhere along the lines of me getting back in racing, and and anybody that does actually know me, I might be slightly compulsive when it comes to my cars and my builds and stuff like that. And nobody made screws exactly how I wanted them. Is I guess the best way I could put it. Like there was a lot of stuff that was close, but it wasn't kind of how now. Like you could turn around on Facebook or any corner on the websites, and there's 50 guys now making different screws, right?
Right.
There was a lot of stuff that was close, but nothing exactly like I wanted. One day I accidentally found a factory in China, and they sent me some samples of some stuff because they were like, "Oh yeah, we know exactly what you're talking about. Here, let's send you that." It turned out to be like calf head screws, which for on-road is huge, right? Like those are gargantuan size, but it was close to what I was looking at. And one day late at night, I was having a conversation. I was probably on WhatsApp, and I was like, "Hey, what if, could you make it to my specs?" And they were like, "Well, yeah." So I actually drew my most popular screw now. My button head was actually drawn on a scrap piece of paper. It wasn't done on a computer program. It wasn't done on Fusion 360 or anything like that. I literally drew it out on a scrap piece of paper, drew the dimensions, took a picture of it, and sent it over WhatsApp. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we can make that." And I got lucky that the factory I found right off the rip was willing to do order quantities of 100 pieces, which if you know anything about anything, minimum order quantities of like 100 pieces is insanely low. Right. So I had 3 sizes made up, 300 screws, and it was just for me, like that was the plan, I couldn't find what I wanted, so I drew it on basically a napkin sketch. Like you hear that cliche story all the time, right? Like literally how it started. It was, I can't find the actual drawing still, but I have a picture of it because I had to take a picture of it to send to them.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you had it framed.
Yeah, I got to find it. It's got to be here because I don't throw anything away. So it's probably, I have a mountain of RC stuff like that way that we're not going to look at. It's probably over there somewhere, but I do have a picture of that picture, and maybe I can get that framed or something like that. So, it just started as I couldn't find what I wanted, so I had it made. And then I'm sure races are racers, and we're all talk. And, obviously I race at a place that's pretty popular, has been around forever. And your buddies see it and they go, "What's that? How do I get it?" And it's like, "Oh, well, I made it." And it was like, "Well, I don't need 100 of those screws." So I sold the ones that I had extra to my buddies, right? Right. And their buddies are like, "Where's that at?" And it was weird. It was a couple months, and all of a sudden I went from like ordering 300 screws. I remember the first time I actually I made an order that wasn't for me. I remember freaking out because it was like 750 pieces or something like that. And like now, what I'm doing now, that seems crazy. It's nothing. But like at the time, I was like, "Holy crap, what if I don't sell these?" And I just did it through word of mouth forever, And then I think it was towards the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, one of my buddies that races off-road was like, "Hey, all of my friends or the people I race with keep asking me where to get these, and me telling them some random guy on Facebook, like, probably isn't working for you anymore. So I made the conscious decision at that point, like, okay, I'm going to at least make a Facebook page, and I need to make this a business or a company or whatever. So,
Right.
And at the time, I had the SortaFast clothing brand, which was just something for me to do for fun. And then in my model car and like the vinyl cutting and crawler world, I had a brand. It wasn't a brand, but maybe brand is like an image of who I was online, I guess, was
Right.
like XSRC. Like, so I was like, man, which one do I do? Like, I already have 2 images and have a following. Like, which one do I pick? And the idea of SortaFast just really resonated. Like I feel like all of us can, like, if you race, most of us are sort of fast, right? Like, there's only a couple of us that are actually fast, but like most of us can resonate. So it was just kind of, I think I even made like a poll online on Facebook or something, just ask my friends, like, which one should I do? And they were all like, hey, you idiot, do sort of fast. Like, that's way better. So
Yeah.
it was like at that moment, like, I went on GoDaddy, I bought a whole bunch of domains with everything that was around SortaFast. SortaFast Clothing was now dead, and it became SortaFast Industries, because I was like, well, I don't want to do this again if, like, maybe later I want to go past RC Screws or something, you know, that type of thing.
Yep.
I think I even registered the business and all that, like at least the domain name or whatever, but it was never still at that point like a business. I had a career that I had been working, but it was just, you know, at least with a Facebook page, I could post when I had inventory, people could message me, and that's how I ran it for years, for almost 4 years.
Yep.
I would post like a Google spreadsheet that I made, like, hey, these are the sizes I have available, and I had some pictures in an album on a Facebook page, and that's how I sold the stuff. Like, people would message me and be like, hey, I want to order this, and I had a little Google sheet that would enter in how many pieces of what they wanted and how much it would cost for shipping, and send them a total, and they would PayPal me, and I did that for like 4 years. So,
yeah.
And it worked well, and it was one of those things where it originally started out as a project for fun, and then, hey, you know what, if I could supplement my hobby, you know, like, it got to the point where it's like, okay, I'm not really making money off of it, but worst case scenario, like, I was making stuff that I thought was cool, and I stick to that motto. If I make stuff that I think is cool, somebody else probably will too. I'll sell that stuff, and as long as I'm not in the red and it's paying for my hobby a little bit, it was great. So,
right.
and that's how it ran for almost 4 years, maybe 3 years, something like that. And then, you know, I'm getting really long-winded, so you can feel free to cut me off if you want. But,
you're good.
It was September-ish of last year. Well, actually, it was about this time last year, a year ago. October, it was like August to September, so we're coming up on a year. The company I was with for almost 20 years, I saw the writing on the wall because I had been on the other side of it for a while before. Called me one day and said, hey, you're no longer needed. We're going to pay you to leave.
Oh,
and,
wow.
You know, at the time I was like, okay, I had been there a while, and I wasn't really upset. Like, you know, it was a little scary, right? Because that's, as an adult, all I knew. You know, that's how I made money. That's how I paid our mortgage. That's how I paid our car payments, how I paid for our hobby, you know, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But I had this other project on the side, you know, so it was kind of one of those things. And I had a conversation with my wife. I was like, look, like, we'll be all right for a little while. I'm going to take a couple months off. Like, I've been doing nothing but working for a company that, you know, at the end of the day,
didn't care. Yeah.
I was a number, right? I'm like, so we'll take a couple months off, and then, you know, I'll hit the ground running and look for a job. Like, I'll look casually, but I'll look to find one, you know, in the winter or something. She's like, cool. I was like, let's enjoy the rest of the summer and the fall, and we'll get some projects done. Maybe we'll go somewhere, do some stuff. What was funny, though, is they gave me 30-day notice when, you know, hey, all that's gone. It wasn't like lights out, like you're gone. It was just,
right.
Hey, here's 30 days notice. It's time. It's, you know, this is your end date, you know, and we'll give you a check, and you can have a nice day, and we'll see you later. So I took that 30 days to build a website, which I didn't know how to build a website. I didn't have anything categorized or anything. So, like, I had, at that point, more products than I knew I had, and had some inventory, but not a ton. But it was more like a project of, like, let's get it online. Let's do something real. So, you know, I started a web store and built part numbers and SKUs and barcodes and all that. I'm sure you're aware of all that fun stuff.
Oh, yeah.
and the goal was to launch it before my time at my career was over. And I did. And the first month it went nuts. Like I was like, I went from like a couple orders a week, you know, because I was some guy on Facebook that you messaged, you know, to all of a sudden, like, I was doing what I was doing in a month and a day. And I'm like, what happened? And I sold everything in like the first month. And I was like, what? So then, like, now the conversation at home changed, right? It was like, well, I got all this money, and the tax man's going to want some of it at the end of the year, because on paper, it looked like I was going to make more money than I ever made in my life, because they pay you at once, right? So then the conversation with my wife became, all right, let's take some of this, instead of lighting it on fire come tax time, let's invest it in SortaFast. So I invested it in bearings and screws and all this stuff. Like, we're talking money that I have spent on cars in my life. And it was very scary, because it was like, well, if this doesn't work out, that was money that like would have supported us while I'm trying to find another job, you know? But it worked out. Like the next month after that, it doubled. And the next month after that, it doubled. You know, it was like, okay. So now the conversation was, I don't think I could have done what I was doing while working a different career. Like it was, I mean, I was spending 8 hours a day just bagging screws and writing SKUs and making barcodes and posting pictures on a website and stuff like that. And, you know, there was days, and I'm sure, you know, being a business owner, like there was days where, you know, you started at 8 a.m, and the next thing you knew, at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, you're like, oh, I should probably stop for the day. I need to eat something, you know? I was like, I couldn't have done that while I was working my career. So the conversation at home changed, you know? It was like, maybe this is what the universe keeps trying to like point, like, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. You know, I was miserable in the job I was in. They obviously didn't really care that I was there, but maybe the time I spent there was to earn the money that they could pay me to leave and do my own thing. So right now I get to go play with toy cars at my local track. I spend, you know, a couple days a week bagging screws or bearings or sanding my fingertips off, you know, getting stainless steel plate sweaty or whatever. But you know, it's my problem. And I wouldn't, you know, I'm sure, you know, when it's your own thing, you can have everything go wrong for a week straight, but it's still your own thing. It's not somebody else's thing going wrong. So
it's still better than a day at the office.
Oh yeah. It's my problem. Like when it goes wrong, it's my problem, you know, so it's still a problem and I'm kind of upset, but you know, at the end of the day, it's still for me, you know? So, so we're going to ride it out and see what happens, you know?
Yeah. So you mentioned you were taking orders through Facebook, like kind of old school style. And then you built the website and kind of streamlined it. I'm curious, what was the backlash on that? Did you still take orders through Messenger, or did you direct everybody to the website?
You know what's funny is I was more scared of that, because I was like, man, I don't want to lose the personal touch. You know, like I was afraid of it, like, because I don't know if I told myself or I convinced myself for years that like it was more personal and it was a better experience for everybody to have them message me, you know. But I still get some people that'll be like, hey, you don't have this, you know, like, can you make it or whatever? And like, yeah, man, I'll make you a custom order, easy, boom, boom, boom. You know, I can send them an invoice and we're done. So I think that was more of a me being worried about it than an actual reality. But it's funny you ask that, because I was petrified of that. Yeah. Like I convinced myself forever that I didn't need a website for that reason. Yeah. But looking back on it, it's kind of funny. Like I probably took away more opportunities and actually experiences for people that are trying to find my stuff, you know. You know, I can see why somebody wouldn't want to message some random dude on Facebook to order, you know, a couple $100 worth of screws or bearings or something like that. But, and even now, I'm sure, you know, I'm the new kid on the block and certain stuff, and they're like, who's this guy? And, you know, how's that work? But it will take time, I'm sure, to gain trust from people that don't know. But the good news is I'm a racer and I like racing. So the easiest way I know how to get the brand out there is to go to the tracks and race and be like, hey, look at the shiny, flashy stuff I have. You know, it's pretty cool. Like that's when I say I'm living the dream. Like that's what I mean. Like I get to go. Like the best way for me to market my business is to go play with toy cars. You know, and I'm sure there's some people that don't like calling it toy cars, but I mean,
they'll get over it.
It'll be all right.
Well, I asked that question because with our RC wraps, and there's not really anyone that's really doing it this way still, which is baffling to me. Is I was doing the same thing. People would message me or the Carpies page asking for a wrap, and then they would. It was frustrating more for me because they would ask for something, and then obviously 40% of those people weren't really serious or weren't really going to buy anything, and you waste all that time. You got to chase people for payment, and then they want to see the artwork first. All this, it was a pain, and then it was hard to scale. So like I tried to bring someone new in to like answer messages or do design work, but they're all funneling to my personal or Facebook page, which I'm not going to give all my employees my Facebook page to answer RC questions. So
Right.
I was like, you know what, there has to be a way. I mean, Stick It One, I guess, kind of does it to an extent. It's a little less personalized, I think, but they have a similar format. But I was like, there has to be a way to make it where someone can just go on and order it, and I don't have to talk to every single person.
Yeah,
And
and I don't think I realized how much I was doing that until I took that away. So that is a very good point. It's interesting that you say that.
yeah,
And yeah, I was doing the same thing. There was a lot of times where you would spend time, messaging people and, how much is this or what is that? The good news for me is the way I did it, like they had to tell me what they wanted. So
yeah,
like if somebody came to me with a list already, like, hey, I need this many 3x8s and this many 3x12s and this many 3x15s or whatever, I knew there was like a 90% chance they were buying. Now,
right,
if they came to me and said, hey, what do I need for this car, this car, this car? Then it was kind of one of those like, okay, 10% of these people that are asking that are actually going to follow through with this. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, it's pretty interesting that you bring that up because I went through
Yeah.
the same things.
Yeah. And I took so much backlash about that so it was probably like a year and a half into doing the RC wraps. Like we had done other like wraps and stuff for like stock cars, but like in the RC market, I got like a lot of people who were mad and wouldn't buy stuff from me ever
Really?
again because it was so impersonal. And I'm like, listen, I can't design the wraps, get them printed, and talk to people all day long. It's just not,
Right.
you can't do it. So I need to streamline it. I mean, if you have a question, I'm happy to answer it for you or give you the right direction or tell you what to order. But as far as like you messaging me 50,000 details of what you want and then you like disappear for 2 weeks, I just can't do it. So
It's tough.
yeah. So, I mean, but now it's streamlined and, our RC wrap sales are like bonkers. So it's definitely the right direction. There was definitely a little heat from the consumer side for a bit. Nobody likes change.
No.
Everybody likes to know, like they want to call the guy, they know the
Yeah.
guy. That's like a connection, but to an extent, you can't really scale the business and be 100% personable
Yeah.
at the same time.
I think I was lucky initially because most of the people I was working with knew me.
Right.
I don't think I really ever grasped how many people, like, because in my mind, I travel the country and go to these races, and I joke that like the same 20 of us are just following each other all around the country to go to these races, right? But in all reality, those 20 people know 20 people, and those 20 people know 20 people. But like on the face of it, that's what you see. I make that joke, and sometimes I've joked with my buddies like, hey, if we all just moved to the same area, we could just do all these races in one area and just do one a month, and we wouldn't have to travel. But I think you lose some of the fun, right? But I think I was lucky in the initial website that like it almost felt like they were waiting for me to do it. Like it was almost like my core customer group, were my buddies and my racer friends, or at least friends of theirs or whatever. So like they were like, "Hey, genius, we've been telling you to do this forever. Finally, like,
Yeah.
And now it's kind of funny because I'll get random messages here or there, and that apparently, like I'm sure you second guess every move you make and everything you do. And is this the right way to go? How's this going to go across? And I've had to do something right because there are people that message, SortaFast either online or on Facebook, and you could tell the tone. They think that there's more than one of me, and there's people out there that has not realized that from designing the logo to making the website to bagging the things and counting it out, like it's all one dude. The guy that, posted it on the webpage and the guy that does Facebook is the same guy that put it in the mailbox, or dropped it off at the post office today. So, one day I hope that maybe that's not what's going on, but right now it's all me. So, I think I still have that luxury because people like to root for the little guy, right?
Right. Yep.
So I hope, I guess that I hope to be lucky enough one day to still keep the business of the people that were rooting for me as the little guy,
Right.
I hope I can be so lucky that that's what I have to do,
Yep. So what's next for SortaFast? Got anything you're going to expand into, or?
So I think I was riding the high or the wave of like building a website, and I went in 70 directions at the end of last year, right? I was like, it started off as screws, and then I kind of introduced to like the stainless weight plates and stuff like that. And then it took me years to find bearings that I wanted to put my name on, and that's been going well. And then I was like, man, people always want colors. They like bright colors, but colors with titanium gets kind of tricky. So like I introduced like aluminum stuff, and then I started, distributing bodies for different companies, like ones that are kind of hard to find, but I know, so I did all of this stuff all at once, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I realized like when you're trying to run a business and you're trying to spend money, it's really easy. Like last year the goal was to spend as much money as possible so I didn't have to give it to the tax man,
right.
in April this year. But now this year it's like, hey, I don't have to get rich this year, but I gotta like still pay my mortgage. So like now I think the goal is to kind of like focus on the core stuff that is really is working well or best, I guess is the way to say it. That type of thing. But so I think this year, the rest of this year, the goal is to like beef up the inventory on the things that I have, because I still run out a lot. And when you're playing the screw or the bearing game, like if you run out of one size, that can kind of throw the whole thing off.
Right.
Somebody might, I don't have, maybe one size of screw. I can't make a kit for your car now, or you can't order and build your own kit for a car. Maybe I haven't figured out what the screws are for. And same thing with bearings and stuff like that. So I think my goal is to just try to scale it up so that way, come this fall and winter when new car season happens and everybody's building all their stuff, I have stuff to keep up with it. Because unfortunately, there's a timeline. I do all the design work and the ordering and the inventory management, but I'm not the factory that's making it, right? So,
right.
If I have an idea for a new screw today or a size, it might be 6 weeks before I see it. And you know how RC world is, like 6 weeks is an eternity. Like our season
2 days.
Over.
Yeah.
So, I think the goal for the rest of this year is to just try to, learn off of what I did last year and have what I need, to be available for who needs me, come new car season, that type of thing. I like the designing part of stuff. Like I like the creative side of me likes to come up with a new screw or this or that. So you'll probably see a couple new designs and stuff like that. If you go on SortaFast and look up the Hexix line, like that is just me trying to be as creative as possible. Like there's the line of like, everybody can afford this and everybody can like this. It's simple, clean. And then there's where is Andy's brain trying to push what can actually be made, So, so if you want to see like, oh, wow, I didn't even know you could make a screw have that crazy of a design to it. That's me pushing the limit and seeing what I could get away with. So, so you'll see little stuff like that. I do have like a new design of a screw coming. Hopefully it should be here Monday. But I mean, it's nothing earth shattering. It's just something I thought would be cool. But the goal really is to beef up inventory and be ready, for what people need without hopefully running out. So,
yeah, that's neat. One thing I don't know if I'm sure you thought of it, but is there a way to like partner with manufacturers to sell like your screws as like an upgrade, like at checkout?
There are some people that I've talked to about doing that. Especially in the oval community, like that seems a little more manageable. Like the guys making oval cars are still a lot like us, right? It's their company.
Right. Yep.
It's maybe one or two guys, or the people helping is their friends or their family or whatever. Maybe that type of thing. So I've had a conversation with some oval manufacturers.
Yep.
There are some guys that have screws and certain things that are actually SortaFast screws, some of which will tell you they are and some of them won't, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And I open to working with those guys, and generally speaking, those are fun projects too, because they understand the business side of things, and we can have conversations about certain things. So yeah, there's a lot of OEMs or manufacturers that I'm already working with, and ones that I'm hopeful to work with in the future. I think on-road, off-road, a lot of those companies are pretty big, so it'll be tough to see that happen. But your grassroots companies and your oval guys are a lot like us, right? Where they're family businesses. I think those are a lot more likely to see more of that happen in the future. So
yeah, for sure. So the last time I saw you was about 2 weeks ago, and you were lapping me a few times at the FireCracker Classic.
We were having fun though. We had the most fun of anybody in that building. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I was finally starting to get like a rhythm going by the time the main came.
Yeah,
and I think I was on pace to pick up like a lap and a half in the main from where I was earlier in the week. So maybe I'll do a little. I only run mod that 1 week every year. I don't run it any other time. So it takes me a little bit to get like reacclimated from 17.5 to open modified 12 scale.
Full disclosure, that was the first race I ever had with a modified 12 scale. And I'm glad it was, in a way, just the three of us. And it was three of us that were pitting together and having a good time all weekend. Like that's, if you were to ask me why I ran that class this weekend, that was why. Like last year I ran 12 scale truck, and 12 scale truck, you got to be in it to be competitive. And this is not a dig at anybody that does it, but when you're helping put on a race or helping, at the track, being competitive in a class that makes you have all of your attention, and all of your focus, and it doesn't end with a weekend where I'm like, man, I had the best time of my life, right? Like, and I said before, like, I love racing, so I want to have fun. So I know I joked that weekend, like, oh, if I crash it and break it, like, I don't have to run anymore. I can just hang out with everybody, So, like, I picked mod because I knew that it would be fun, even if I failed, and then I actually even joked that I wasn't even going to work on the car. Like, I knew, I'm fortunate that I'm 10 minutes from the track, and that track's open 4 days a week, and I run a business that's RC related. So as long as my stuff's done, and my husband duties are done and everything's taken care of, I can go to the track. So like the car was ready. All I had to do was drive the thing, I like, some people talk me into making some changes later in the day or whatever, but like the goal was just to have fun, and I think we accomplished that. And, I don't know. There's nothing more, like, if you want to run oval, there's nothing more fun than that little 12 scale with a mod motor in it. Like this, the first time you rip that thing and it like does a wheelie. We got a little bump on the front stretch there, and I know our cars will off of the ground every lap. And like, there's something about that that's awesome and it's fun, So
that's what Audra was saying. She was saying she was watching the main, and all of our cars going down the front straightaway would just catch air every time.
Mm-hmm.
But
that was part of the strategy, is like get the thing to settle before you had to turn in, But yeah, like the goal for that was to have fun, and be available to help where I was needed, to help at the track, but also get to race our race. And obviously, I want to be, I'm a competitive person. I don't race just to hang out. Like, I also want to win, but like I said, if I didn't, I still had a blast, that main, you were there, but I know you didn't have the vantage point that everybody else did, but that was probably the most fun I've had in an RC car in a very long time, even though I didn't win. I would have loved to win. It would have been more fun if I did, but
I didn't see it, but I heard all the oohs and ahs.
I know we put on a show. So
I was telling Audra, I think maybe after the first night, I was like I probably won't beat them, but just like running this class is just fun to drive. Like, even if there's nobody else out there, it's a handful, but it's also in control. But there's no boring point. Like, we ran the 17.5 10 scale car, and that's a competitive tight class, but it's not. At the same time, you can very easily zone out 2 minutes into the run.
You're full throttle and just turning, and then unfortunately a minute in, you know what the car is going to do. It's either going to do it or not do it. It's I'm a casual oval racer. I do it mostly because our track oval races at times, and I didn't want to not race. Again, I like racing more than I don't like racing. So, I got into it actually because Wayne let me borrow a car. I think I own that car now. It's sitting over there. I've had it for 3 years now, I think. So it's probably like a possession law that, like, after you've borrowed it for so long, it's now yours. And plus, I think I've replaced everything on it. So if I do ever give it back to him, it's probably going to be Travis's car, and Travis will have a car that was nicer than when it was lent to me. So good for him. But that's how I got back into it. I started with 21.5 truck. And again, that's another one of those classes that, like, if you don't have everything figured, you can be club race fast, and then all of a sudden people show up for a big race, and you're, in the seat. You're like, what happened?
Yeah, and you're still not even that far off either. It's just such a tight field.
Oh, oval's crazy. A half a tenth a lap is, 4 laps. You're like, what?
Yeah.
it's out of control. So, but it's fun for that. I like that challenge. But yeah, the idea to run mod that weekend was, I just want to have fun. I don't want to get too serious. Like, obviously I'm a competitive person. I'm going to try. I'm not going to do it not to try. But, I knew I had jobs and duties and things that were going to pull me in different directions. So, trying to do something super competitive, like, one of those 17.5 spec classes it's just tough. As much as I like to try to see how I stack up with those guys and let them kick my butt, I knew that wasn't the weekend to try to do that. So.
Yeah. Going to NORCAR is always my favorite. We only make it there probably once or twice a year, but it's definitely my favorite track to go to. The track's essentially the same as every other oval track, but the environment and like the all the people that are there are just so much more fun. Like, there's fast guys there. It's not like you're going just to fuck around, but they're fast competitive guys there, but it's also super fun and like laid back at the same time. So vibe that really not really any other track has. I don't know if it's just something in the water down there or
it's
what,
the food trucks. It's got to be the food trucks.
Yeah, you guys hooked us up with the food trucks last two times, but that last one was good.
This one was good. I think I liked the first one better. The one from, what was that, the short track race that we had, I think.
Yeah.
These guys were good too. It was pretty good, but
they were
sat for a while before I got it, so maybe that has something to do with it too. But
I think this one didn't know what they were walking into.
No, I think they we say 60 guys, 70 guys. Like, I'm like, oh, that's small. We got it. Like, no, dude, we're oval dudes and we're RC racers. We're gonna eat.
60 guys is really 120 guys when it comes to an RC track.
And we're all coming to you in a hurry because we got like 5 minutes to do this before we gotta peak our battery off and go through tech and all this other stuff. So but the first they were like a food truck, right? So you had to go up to the window, put your order in and all that. Mm-hmm. It's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. But I think that's one of the reasons why I think the first group we had do it was maybe a little better, because like they had that assembly line, like they were ready for us, and it was like an outdoor Chipotle, like, what do you want? Here you go, give me your money, see you later. And we're like, sweet. And it worked for them too, because we could just go right back out and get another 3 more tacos or whatever.
Right. But, that first one, I think I had like 15 tacos.
Right, because we could just go right back through the line. We were like, oh, I got 3 minutes before I got to be up to go through tech. I'll go get another couple tacos real quick.
So it's funny because we're doing the awards for your guys' SummerSlam race that's coming up, and the guy who supplies me all the blanks, his estimated ship date was like a day after it needed to ship, and I'm like, fuck, we're gonna have to drive these there, which isn't all that bad because Wayne said there's going to be more food trucks.
There is. This one's a different one. Their menu is interesting. Like, they had, like, we were looking at it. it changes all the time on what they can get. I guess they grow a lot of their own produce. So like their menu a lot of time is based off of what's ready to be, picked and cooked and all that other stuff. And then we lucked out, like, I'm not sure if you ever looked into getting food trucks, but sometimes they have minimums, right? Like you have to guarantee that they're going to sell a certain amount. Otherwise, like the track has to pay that. So that's kind of like a scary thing.
Mm-hmm.
We know there's going to be 60 hungry dudes there, but like, what if they don't hit the minimum? Like now that's another expense. And if you're running a track, expenses are bad,
Right.
So this group that's coming next weekend, they're going to hit us real quick, do the lunch, and then they're going to go off somewhere else. They're already booked for dinner. So hopefully, we communicated to them like, hey, like lunch is going to still be a big deal. But I guess we got bourbon chicken, and then I don't know, whatever else they decide that they are ready to make for us that day. So, but
yeah,
I saw one dish they had like this shredded beef on redskin mashed potatoes and like green beans and stuff. I was like, dude, if they bring that, I'm done. I won't be able to wait for the rest of the day. Like, I'll call races.
that brings up an interesting point. So, you guys have the SummerSlam, which is a big summertime on-road race that you guys have. But I was talking with Audra earlier today. I was wondering, like, what is the vibe? Is it different from an oval race to an on-road race? Or, I mean, assuming on-road people, I'd never been to a real on-road race, but I just assume they're completely different people.
They are and they aren't. What's cool about the summer races is the vibe is a little more, like you were saying, it's a little more, let's just have fun. Like, obviously, we're here to race. We all want to do well. But it's also like, hey, man, like, it's summertime. It's nice outside. Let's eat some tacos. Let's hang out with our buddies. Let's tell some stories, that kind of stuff. So both of those summer races have very similar vibes. For us, we're dead by the time we do the second one, which was one of the reasons why I begged Wayne to push it out a week this year, because last year we basically did the big oval race. We had a week off, and then we did the big on-road race, and it was like, dude, I'm dead. So I'm like, I need another week in between, man. So on-road guys, if you're wondering why it's a week later this year than it normally is, it's because I begged for basically my health and sanity. But no, we learned one of the things that was interesting during like the COVID year, right? It's like we learned that like we could do these fun themed races, and it was almost better for everyone, And I guess what I mean by that, and this isn't a dig on anything, and I don't know if you know anything about everything about our track, but our big on-road race, and probably our biggest race for the track every year, is the Halloween Classic.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that track, like you said, always has that vibe. It's always the like, everybody's going to come and have a good time. They're going to joke around. We bring in the cast of characters from all over the country, and it's still not as serious as going to like a Roar Nats or a Tour Nats or, a Snowbirds or something like that, right?
Right.
But the Halloween Classic is our big race. Like, people are coming to show up and win, and if you win that, it's still a pretty big deal, right? So, like, that vibe is probably the most serious race we ever have, right? But what we learned in 2020 when we couldn't have a bunch of people in the building is we could do these small themed races where we might not get a ton of people, but we'll get more than what you would get for a club race. Everybody's going to have a good time. We can have fun. We can do, different awards or different themes or different formats, and it's great. Like, everybody has a great time. Some people are like, oh man, you're not running that class this race, but like, cool. And then 6 weeks, we're going to run that class at a different race, but we're not going to run these classes, that type of thing.
Right.
So, so like this year, the SummerSlam is, we made the choice it's always been kind of more a scale oriented race. It originally started as VTA, which was a vintage Trans Am race. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of evolved to everything rubber tire. So we didn't run anything foam tire or anything like that. And then this year we kind of went a little further and said, we're going to run all scale classes. So, it's just the realistic looking cars. So, your touring cars and your wedge shaped 12 scales, it's not this race. We'll have another race for that, and we might even do a themed race, later this year. Hint, where that's all we run. Maybe we won't run the scale classes. Maybe we'll just run the super serious classes, serious, but we still have fun racing. So we're taking a chance to just run the scale races. We're doing a different format. So instead of like qualifying forever all weekend, and then it comes down to one 5-minute race. We're actually doing the opposite. Like, there's going to be a couple quick qualifying seeding rounds, and then, race for 3 races. Like, that's the format. So we're going to do like a quick seeding round on Friday night, a quick seeding round on Saturday morning, and then we're racing the rest of the day. Like, it's heads up. We're going to do pit stops. We're going to do, all sorts of fun stuff. So
it's funny you say that. We'll end on this, but is it silly that we practice and qualify for 2 days and race for 4 minutes?
I hate it.
Yeah, I think it's so silly. It's
I
so
think
outdated.
it's what's interesting is, and it doesn't matter if you're on road, you're off road, you're oval, whatever genre you're into. I think we get stuck into doing things a certain way because that's how it's always been, right?
Yep.
But this is the only form of racing I know. Now, there are some races where they do qual points, so there's a little more emphasis on trying to do well, at least more than one round, right? But a lot of these races, we're doing rocket round qualifying where you only got to do well once, and then you can.
Right.
That's the order that you start in, and then even if you do that, like if the main doesn't go well, it's over. Like we spent.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many races we spend. You spend 2 days practicing, 2 days qualifying, and then you got 1, 4, 5, 6 minute main, and it's over.
Yeah.
And then you got a sad, 4, 5, 6, 8 hour drive home.
Exactly.
To think about going to do it the next time, But
I've been saying that for like 3 years now, at least. Like vocally been saying it. It's like, I know ovals kind of transition to like the rolling start, which is at first I was kind of wishy-washy on it, but it seems to be proven to be better. So I'll give them credit that we've evolved a little bit there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you go to Snowbirds or any of the PRW races or any of those like bigger oval races. Hey, you're there for like 3 days and you didn't even race yet. And then you race for 3 hours and it's over.
Yeah.
And yeah, you get one. You have one bobble. Yeah, you get one bobble, or someone takes you out in turn 1. Your whole weekend's nullified.
Yeah. And I get it. Like, there's a certain level of like that's the point. Like, the attrition is the point, and the guy that's the best is the guy that can manage through that. But at the end of the day, we're also allowed to have fun, right?
Yeah.
So, that's why we're taking a chance on, this race is going to be scale races, and we're going to do heads up racing, and we're going to have pit stops, and the goal is to have fun. Now, do I know for a fact that there's some super serious dudes that would have normally come to this race that are not coming? Yeah. Do I wish they would have come? Yeah. But do I think we're going to have fun regardless? Absolutely. And the good news is we're still going to have a race for those guys too. So hopefully they're not too upset with us and understand that, maybe this race wasn't their cup of tea, but maybe it wasn't for them also, At the end of the day, this hobby doesn't live and die by the 10 dudes that take this super serious, right? It lives and dies by the supporting cast of people that come. If we look at the FireCracker, there was 130 something entries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 25 of those were super serious dudes. The majority were the guys that were there to have a good time and have fun and hang out with their buddies and, maybe sneak a beer in a cup that we weren't supposed to know that they had and, all that stuff, right? Like,
it wasn't my pit.
You're right. No, not at all. We definitely don't have Fireball in the fridge at the track. I don't know anything you're talking about. But like, so when we put events on, we'll get a lot of questions from the diehard guides, like, why are you doing this way? But, my ask is to remember that the other, 50 dudes that are there are the guys that we need to make sure comes back next year and then to the next race and then to the next race. Because at the end of the day, the 15 of you that live and die by the most serious thing that happens aren't enough to support tracks to keep them open,
Right.
So it's a challenge to blend that and make everybody happy. But one of the things that we got out of the COVID year is we learned we could do that. We could just have another race. Like, if you don't like this one, we'll just do a different one. And frankly, it's easier.
Yeah.
more fun for everybody, and that's fine. We'll just do another race, and we'll call you and tell you we need awards. And sorry, I only gave you 2 weeks to know about it, but my bad.
Hey, I got a hold of the supplier, and he rush shipped them, so we're good.
Perfect.
But I was also kind of looking forward to getting that chicken, so I don't know who really lost there.
No, pretty good.
All right, man. Well, there's a bunch we didn't get to, so maybe in a couple months we'll have you back on again.
Yeah, heck yeah.
All right. Well, it's good catching up with you, Andy.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Looking forward to seeing all the pictures and video from the SummerSlam race.
Absolutely.
And we'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, thank you.